I wanted to ask about if you have any advice as well for me or for other people listening too. Because again, like I was saying, it's one thing to like become aware of your privilege or like a power position, especially if you're working with a client. And then it's something else to figure out how that's going to change the way you work.
Yeah.
What are some steps that people can take to ensure that they're, I guess, quote unquote, on the right side of history, so
Mm-hmm.
that they're not unknowingly complicit in oppression?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, Firstly, I would say, do your own work beforehand, as in work on your own personal stuff, because I think there's a very thin line sometimes between being passionate about something and then that passion kind of pushing your agenda and how you do things. So being self-aware to the point, like you're aware of what pushes you, what motivates you, what could potentially cause you to cross a line. So like having that awareness, I think would prevent you from, going too close to those lines
I think I
because,
know for me, sometimes when I'm really passionate about things, it's
yeah,
I quickly cross over into I want to control everything about
exactly. So
it.
like advocate mode kicks in and you're like, no, like I have to do this. I have to get this done. So like that piece, when I started even just applications for everything, there's one of my profs made it very clear to us. He's like, if you're not in therapy and you're doing this work, you're going to burn out. And therapy looks different for everyone, whether that's talking to someone, whatever works for you, but some form of intentional self-care and a space that you can vent to, or a safe space. Very very important, safe spaces, because we see a lot of crazy things in this field. So it's how do you take care of yourself afterwards? Like that's what continues that the longevity in this field, I think. But also being able to turn off that part of your mind, which I think a lot of us struggle with because life, especially, like with COVID now, like everything's, you're either at home working or work is with you wherever you are. So
I
it's,
see the same thing all the time, right? So it's hard
mhm,
to get your mind to switch when your body's in the same place, looking at the
exactly,
same things.
exactly. Yeah. So it's all those, considering all those things. Um, but practically, so yeah, practically I would say, doing your inner work, but also not just surrounding yourself with your own community, but also like learning about other people, like especially the agencies that you work in, becoming aware of the different groups that use the resources of those agencies or the different clienteles, like so you're not just walking in blind to say, this is what I learned in school, these are my perfect clients that are going to show up, because those don't exist, and just pulling from textbook to real life, that never, like 90% of the time, never works. So it's kind of learning how to be flexible sometimes and learning how to match a situation with an idea that you have in terms of an approach to a situation. So like, yes, you could have like read a chapter in a book and it says do XYZ, but the situation doesn't call for all of XYZ. So maybe it's like an expanded version of point X. So it's like allowing yourself that space to get creative with it.
And
I
thankfully, there
think,
is a lot of research that
yeah.
there now anyway, there is a lot of research about people like um, reevaluating the way
Mm-hmm.
that they do things, or
Mm-hmm.
people trying to make this choice and then writing about how it went. So that's
Exactly.
helpful too.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. I think it helps with, especially when you look at like if you do like a comparison, like a historical comparison from 19 something to like 2000 something, like you'll see there are some things I think would be still parallel, but like you'll see the differences in how folks approach things. And for me, it's like having more than one way to do one thing is never a bad thing. There's because people are so different, right? And we are literally working with humans. So it's maybe that approach works for one person, the other one doesn't, or vice versa, or a combination of both approaches works. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily getting stuck on this is the one area or the one path to, progress for this person. It's allowing yourself to try different things. And I think that's a really big part of social work. It's doing what works for the clients in front of you, getting to know them enough where you have an idea of like, okay, maybe this will work for you, but this would work for like a Susie, or, like it won't work for Tiffany, but it'll work for, so it's like having that ability to not just say, okay, this is my agenda for the day. These are all the things that we're going to use on everyone else around us, but you might get a client who nothing works for. So then you have to go back to the drawing board and say, what are we
There's
doing?
no like
And so,
formula to learn how to connect with someone.
no, no. That funny enough, the first job I had out of school was working in an autistic group home. And it was my not my first time working with autistic people, but it was my first like one-on-one for like prolonged hours. I remember like going in, it's like, oh, I got this. I know how to do this. I've done this before. Nope. Nope. That was like a big like eye-opening. I was like you have the theory, but theory means nothing when the person in front of you is yelling at you because they want a magazine and you don't have magazines, and you're like, there's literally nothing in a book that can like help you to figure that scenario out. It's literally getting to know the person in front of you and working with the person in front of you.
Yeah. And it takes knowing
Yeah.
yourself too, right? You're saying like doing
Yep.
your own research, learning about
Yep.
your own background or your own culture,
Mm-hmm.
the way you see the world and how it might differ from somebody else.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
because then you're able to in the moment like put aside any feeling like, oh, this
Exactly.
person isn't being what I want them to be.
Exactly. And even that scenario, like I could have walked into that and said, oh, she's being rude because she's yelling at me. And I've seen staff do that or take that approach, whereas I would be like, person A, what's going on? Why are we yelling? Like what's going on? To help, like, bring the inside voice out, and kind of walk her down. And everyone always is like, it's your calm demeanor. I'm like, probably, but I'm not always calm. But like in certain settings, that's what you're gonna get, because everyone's up here and I'm down here, and I'm like, you need to match me. So then we can actually have a conversation, right? So it's knowing enough of you and how you influence like the environment you're in. So yeah.